People in Brick, New Jersey are wondering what happened to their town. We're not talking about Hurricane Sandy, that was more than a couple of years ago, but everybody went through that knowing they lived close to the ocean. Those things happen, and they're back on their feet after that. But a lot of people think Brick is facing a bigger threat, the threat of black on white violence, black mob violence, that's happening more and more often. All this in a town that used to be considered the safest in New Jersey, if not the entire United States of America. Latest example came just a couple weeks ago. Girl was at a playground. However it started, it ended with up to 10 black people beating the hell out of this girl, putting her in the hospital, breaking some bones in her face, damaging her eyesight, perhaps permanently. That's bad enough. But afterwards, the new police chief and a lot of the city officials went into full-on ignore, deny, condone, excuse, encourage, and even lie mode. They start talking about how, well, maybe the girl went down there and got more than she bargained for. This is very isolated in Brick. This doesn't happen that often. Oh, and by the way, even though it doesn't happen, and it's not a problem, we're increasing our police patrols enormously to solve a problem that doesn't even exist. Bruce Springsteen grew up not too far from Brick, and not too far from there is a town called Asbury Park, where Bruce used to hang out, named one of his records after that town. When Bruce was a kid, when Bruce made a song called My Hometown, talked about growing up in this area, kind of an idyllic existence, how he would go with his father, maybe to the grocery store to pick up a newspaper. His dad would put him on his lap as they drove their car around town. And Bruce talked about how his dad said one day, "Son, this is going to be your town." Well, that's not the way it is anymore for lots of towns in that area. People in Brick do not want that to happen to their town. In the remainder of the song, My Hometown, Bruce goes on to describe the creeping racial tension in the area. He called it a lot of fights between black and white. But he kind of leaves open the question, like, what happened to that town? Well, it's no mystery what happened to that town or Asbury Park or lots or hundreds and hundreds of other cities around the country. Black people moved in, crime and violence followed, grievance followed, violence against children followed, and people who dreamed of having their families and their families after that and their families after that one day settle down in their hometown, those dreams vanished because they had to move. People have successfully called that white flight. I think we should start calling that ethnic cleansing, especially when you think about what it would take to get people to move away from an area where they loved their town so much. They had so many dreams for their town, but they all disappeared. The answer is it would take dynamite to get those people out of their town. And that's what happened. They had an explosion of racial violence, racial intolerance, racial hatred, black on white. Though if you read the history books and the school textbooks, you would think it was just the opposite. Either way, people in Brick, they're doing what people in every other small town in America did when confronted with this. They're resolving to fight. They're resolving to stay in their town. They're resolving to keep their town safe, a place where their children can move next door to their parents or their aunts and their uncles. Let's see how that turns out. Because lots and lots of people in Brick now are starting to wonder why all the violence, why all the black on white violence, much of it directed at children, and what did the people in Brick do to make the black kids so angry?